All right. Molly. Hey, Molly.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Give me just one
Good.
second. All right. There you are. How are you doing today?
Hey, good. How are you today?
I am doing good. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, no problem. It's great to be here.
All right, you guys, this is Coach Molly. She is a devoted THM enthusiast for 9 years and an experienced coach for 5. After enduring years of chronic dieting, Molly embraces THM's food freedom wholeheartedly. Her areas of expertise include simplifying meal planning and conquering emotional eating. Through her own journey, she learned to manage emotional eating and heal her relationship with food. Experiencing the profound impact it had on her overall well-being. In her talk, Molly will share invaluable tips and tricks to overcome emotional eating once and for all, empowering you to begin your own healing process. So please give a warm welcome to Coach Molly.
Thanks so much for the introduction, Sarah. Hi, ladies. It's so great to be with you today. So we're going to dive right into emotional eating. I feel like that is something that a lot of us women have dealt with at some point in our lives, just because we are such emotional beings, right? And I feel like we also tend to put other people first. And so we don't always address our own emotions when we need to. So I had a few experiences, profound experiences with this that really just woke me up to the fact that I had an issue. So when I was a young mom, I had 2 young kids at home. My 2 oldest kids are 20 months apart. And my husband was commuting to DC. We lived in Virginia at the time. So he would get up before we got up and he would get home just as I was putting the kids to bed. So it was a really stressful time for me. A lot of people thought I was a single mom because I felt like a single mom. And I would put the kids to bed and then I would just raid the pantry or the freezer and I would just basically numb my emotions. And so it was that time frame where I felt like, okay, there is something I really need to do about this, right? I'm not really addressing my emotions here. I am just using food to numb them. And this is not improving my life. And the reason why we tend to emotionally eat too is because that food will give us a dopamine high, right? So we get this feel-good hormone, but it is something that is not long-lasting, right? So we feel good for, maybe a couple of minutes while we're eating this food. I remember eating a pumpkin cheesecake just straight out of the freezer. It was left over from Thanksgiving and I downed probably half of that cheesecake, which is disgusting to me now. But it felt good in the moment, right? But then it soon was replaced with feelings of guilt and, I was stressing my body out physically because it didn't need that kind of food, right? So I felt bloated. So with emotional eating, the trick that I have learned and that I've researched about is really that we need to replace that with something else, right? It's not enough just to say, I'm not going to emotionally eat anymore. I'm done with that. I mean, that's great. That's the first step, right? But we really need to replace it with something else. So I just was talking to my husband after I had this cheesecake episode, and he said, it just sounds like you need to ask for some help, right? I can't be here as much as I want to right now. I'm helping with the kids. So it just really sounds like you need some help. And so I found this mom's group and I just had this social outlet, and then my kids had a social outlet. And that's something that really, really helped me at the time. And there was another time, and I had this group of friends, or so I thought they were my friends at church. And I went to this church function and they just kind of ignored me. It was kind of bizarre. So I, was busy talking to other people, but it just made me feel sort of worthless at the time. And so I remember distinctly going through a drive-through and I just ordered a plate of nachos. And I remember sitting in my car eating these nachos and I was just sobbing. And I thought, how sad is this, right? I'm not even enjoying this food. Because my personal theory is that, you can go off plan when you want to, when it's smart for you to, if you decide to do that, right? But for me, it's like when I'm on a vacation or if it's an anniversary or something and I'm actually enjoying the food. That's not what this was, right? This was me abusing food, using it to numb my emotions. And then I was just sobbing in the car. So that was one of those other aha moments, like, okay, Molly, you really need to get this together. What is the issue here? The issue is you had these friends, or you thought they were your friends, and they're not really genuine friends. So you need to find some genuine friends. And these same friends went to New York without me, even though we like talked about going to New York together. Anyway, so I found a different group of friends, and they embraced me, and I felt, you know, that they really loved me, and we're still friends to this day. So that was another very profound time, right? I also remember when I first lost weight with THM back in 2013. So I'm coming up on my 10-year anniversary, my trim-iversary with THM, which is super exciting. And I got to my goal weight, and I still saw myself as a fat person. That was another aha moment, right? Like, okay, there's something wrong here, because you know, I weighed like 137. I definitely was not fat, but in my mind, I still saw this fat person. So it was really at that time when I decided to dive in and do the mindset work, right? So THM is awesome because we have the food freedom, but you really need to have that emotional freedom as well in order for this to be a sustainable thing, in order for you to have long-lasting weight loss and good health, right? Your mental health is just as important. So this is something that was a hard lesson for me to learn, but I had to learn it. And my mom growing up, she sort of talked about, you know, her self-worth in terms of the size that she was. And I love my mom to pieces, and she's had to do a lot of work with that, but that was kind of my example with that. So I had to learn to let go of that as well. But emotional eating is something that is difficult, because you may think that you have conquered it at some point, and then something else could happen in your life, and you feel like, oh my gosh, this tendency to emotionally eat is coming back, right? So I've had some clients, and they've had big things happen, like spouses pass away, and that's something that they've never dealt with before, right? So then they start emotionally eating, and then we have to really you know, do the mindset work. And sometimes it's bigger than that. Sometimes we need professional help, right? So in those kinds of circumstances, I had one client, and she just could not dig herself out of it. And I said, you really need to get some professional help. And there's nothing wrong with that, because sometimes we just do, right? Okay, so what is emotional eating exactly? It's replacing dealing with our emotions, or numbing our emotions out using food, right? So it's abusing food. And unlike other addictions with food, we can't stop eating, right? We have to eat. So we can't just say, well, I'm not going to eat, because that's a different kind of issue, right? So we have to learn to have a different relationship with food, a different relationship with our bodies and how we see ourselves, right? If we are not kind to ourselves in this process, if we are hating ourselves and punishing ourselves and saying, well, I have to do THM because I'm overweight or whatever, it's going to be a miserable process. Your body is going to fight back, and you're not going to be able to release the weight. I keep touching my table here, and it makes the computer move, so I'm sorry about that. I get into it. So we really just have to be kind to ourselves along the way, and that is doing the mindset work, right? So if you if you tend to say negative things about yourself all the time, it's not going to motivate you to change. It's not going to motivate you to stay on plan, right? So we say some things to ourselves that we would never say to a best friend or to our children. So why do we speak to ourselves in a negative way? Do we think that that's going to be motivating? Because it's not, right? And then when we put ourselves down so much, then yeah, we can definitely get into that emotional eating rut, right? So what can we do about it? I did send you a handout. So you have this handout to look at. Someone did ask me for access to it earlier. So if you still need access to it, let me know. Everyone should have access to it though, but if we need to fix that, let me know. Okay, I did give her access though. But this is about ending emotional eating, right? So when you turn to food to fill a void, it will always, always leave you feeling worse. Instead, engage in massive self-care. And I feel like a lot of people look at self-care as something that is, well, if I have time, I will get to that. But it should not be that way. We need to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves, because then we can better take care of others, right? If we are not filling our own buckets, our own emotional buckets, we will eventually have nothing left to give, right? So here are some ideas. Write it out. If you are not keeping track of your emotions and when you tend to emotionally eat and try and figure that out, then it's going to be really hard to stop emotional eating, right? Because you may just do it without thinking about it, right? So start writing things down. That's the first step. So get a composition notebook. I like to actually physically write in my notebook versus type on my phone, but if that's all you can do right now, that's okay too. You can just go into the notes section of your phone and start taking notes, right, about how you're feeling, why you're feeling that way. Reflect on the first time that you emotionally ate and what that felt like and why you emotionally ate. I also had this experience. It was after, I think, my oldest son's, I want to say his second birthday, and my friend made this amazing cake for him. His birthday is October 24th, so around Halloween. So it's this cute pumpkin-shaped cake and not THM friendly or anything. But I remember we had this great party. He was happy. All of the guests were happy. And then once they left, I actually just started eating that cake. And it wasn't because I was sad. It wasn't because I was upset. It's because, well, now that I think about it, I think it was because I wanted that feeling of, happiness and celebration to last, right? But in that moment, I was abusing food, right? So I was using it to fulfill an emotion. So that is another version of emotional eating. Okay, so recite positive affirmations. If you are used to speaking to yourself in a negative way, then it can be hard to say nice things about yourself. It just can be, right? So a great way to start is to find some positive affirmations that are going to help you speak positively to yourself, right? So if you find yourself saying something negative, you can acknowledge that and say, okay, I am speaking negatively to myself. Is this helpful? This is not helpful. I'm going to put that over here. And now I'm going to say something positive, right? And it could be something as simple as, you know what? I really like my eyes. I have beautiful eyes. It can be something like that. Or you can get a little bit deeper and say, I'm that girl who sets boundaries for herself. I am that girl who no longer emotionally eats, right? I am that girl who, I love, Coach Amy says this all the time, who keeps promises to herself, right? So come up with some positive affirmations that really are going to be helpful for you. And even if you don't believe that about yourself now, the more and more you say that, the more you are going to believe that, and the more likely you will become that person, right? So there's lots of different affirmation ideas online. You can just look up positive affirmations and just write some down that really resonate with you. Write them and put them in your car, put them on your bathroom mirror, put them on your fridge, just wherever you can see them to remind you of the person that you want to be, okay? Satisfy emotional hunger, right? So too often the emotional eating does not come from feeling deprived. It comes from being emotionally hungry, okay? So are there some areas in your life where you are feeling unfulfilled, right? So maybe you need to work more in your relationship with your spouse, or you need to spend more time with your kids, or you're not taking time out to go out with friends. Or maybe you're in a job that you just don't feel fulfilled in, right? I'm not saying to quit your job. Definitely, keep your job, but you can be looking for other jobs, looking for other opportunities, talking to your boss maybe about a different situation within your job, right? If you're religious, are you doing those things, that really help ground you, help you keep that relationship with God? So just look at all of the areas in your life and be honest with yourself. Am I feeling fulfilled in all of these areas, or do I need to work on some of these areas? Because that really, really helps with your emotions for sure. And then release your feelings. Sometimes if we, have different circumstances that have happened in our lives, or there were times when we weren't necessarily allowed to speak up, or we felt like we couldn't speak up, or we didn't stay true to ourselves. If we have never addressed our emotions that we felt during those times, then they are just being bottled up, right? So they need to come out at some point, okay? And sometimes it's just we don't want to feel those feelings again. So that's why we suppress these feelings, right? But, when you're ready, get them out And then you may need to go in your closet and scream or pray or punch a pillow. I will call my mom and just rant about different things, or talk to my husband about things, or just take a walk or take a drive to clear my head. There's this spot in our neighborhood that I go that just overlooks the valley. It's really, really gorgeous with mountains and the view. And I just go there to meditate, to pray, just to have time to reflect on different things in life. Okay, so make sure you're taking time to acknowledge your feelings and to release them when you need to. Okay, and the roller coaster. So I love this one. Just because emotional eating has been part of your story does not mean that it has to continue to be your story, right? This is super empowering. When we can say to ourselves, okay, I do not want to emotionally eat anymore. I'm acknowledging that this was who I was. Like, I was this person who emotionally ate, but I am going to let that go. And I'm going to start in a new chapter, right? I'm going to start in this chapter where I treat myself well, where I deal with my emotions, where I let myself feel different emotions, right? So if you need to visually look at it as a chapter in your book of life, and I'm closing this chapter or these chapters, I'm starting a new chapter, I feel like that can be really helpful, right? Okay, let's see. Okay, so we're going to talk about replacing, right, your emotional eating. So for me, instead of going to the pantry or the freezer, I would close the kitchen. My mom would always say growing up, okay, the kitchen is closed. So I do that now, right? The kitchen is closed. I've had my meal. I've had my evening snack. And now I'm going to go upstairs and have a bath. So that's what really helps me to end my emotional eating, was to get out of the space that I was emotionally eating in, right? And get out of the space, make sure the tempting food is not in the house. If your family does not do THM or they insist on certain food, make sure that it's not food that's tempting for you, or that they put it somewhere where you can't see it. Maybe they need to bag it up and put it in a spot that you don't even know about, right? So if the food is not in the house, you can emotionally eat it, right? But I feel like the most important thing to do is just to get out of that space and to replace it with something else. So it could be calling a friend, it could be taking a walk, it could be writing in your journal, writing burn letters. I love to do burn letters. So you don't actually have to burn the letter. You can, but you don't have to. But it's just writing out your thoughts and feelings as fast as you possibly can, just to get them out, to release them. And then you can tear up that paper and throw it away. You can actually burn it, but it's symbolic of releasing those feelings and tossing them aside, right? Okay. Let's see, get creative. So a vision board is a really fun way to think about what you want for your life, right? So what are those things that really resonate with you? What do you want out of life, right? We get to be the author of our own stories, which is amazing. And those of us who are religious, do believe that God, of course, has a plan for us. So what is that plan? And what do you want your life to look like? If there are things in your life that you are not happy about, what can you do to change it, right? So having a vision board is great. You can put up pictures of vacations that you want to go on, or jobs that you want to have, or just, maybe flowers that you want to grow in your garden, or just words that resonate with you, right? I feel like a lot of us are visual learners. We need those visual reminders. And that's really exciting and empowering when we remind ourselves that we are the author of our own lives, right? So I encourage you to do that. You can just do it on the computer if you want. I just made vision boards on the computer just using Canva, or you can get a poster board, and if you like to cut and paste, that's kind of fun, right? And then the last one, of course, is engaging in massive self-care. And we talked about some of these ideas already, but taking an Epsom salt bath, simply doing a yoga child's pose, or any kind of stretching. Sometimes we sit too long, we just need to stretch, right? We need to take care of our bodies in that way. Call a friend or a family member, write in your journal, or write a burn letter, drink tea or a warm sipper. Sometimes we feel like we need to eat when really we just need something soothing like that, right? Do something with your hands. If you're crocheting or gardening or coloring, drawing, then you can't eat because you're doing something with your hands, right? And then it's also engaging in hobbies, right? Which is part of having a fulfilling life. take a walk or spend some time outdoors. I feel like I'm happiest when I take time to be outdoors and commune with God and just appreciate nature, and remind myself that there's so much more than just me and my family, right? Listen to uplifting music, books on tape or podcasts. The THM potties are always really encouraging and positive. Do a hobby that you enjoy. Okay, so hopefully these tips and tricks will help you guys combat your emotional eating. Just remember that it's not going to get fixed overnight, that if you've had an issue with this, that it's something that's going to take work, right? So if you can just notice when you're emotionally eating and try and figure out why, that's going to be the first step in ending it, right? So you can even be in the middle of it and say, you know what, no, I don't want to do this anymore, okay? So that is all I have for you today. You can connect with me on Facebook. I have a free challenge page. So Molly Miller Wellness THM Challenge Page 2023 is what it's called. So yes, we do frequent free challenges in there, and I just have a lot of tips and recipes that I post in there, as well as information about my coaching services. So, and of course, if you have emotional eating questions, feel free to reach out. You can always message me as well. Okay. Have a lovely day. Okay.
Thank you so much, Coach Molly. We appreciate you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom.
You're welcome, Sarah. Thanks for letting me be here. It's been awesome.
Have a great afternoon.
Hey, you too. Bye.